event in pharmacy for South Asian Heritage Month. I'm Samantha Quay from Pharmacy Technicians of Colour, and tonight I'm joined by a fantastic panel for Me and My South Asian Heritage, which is our event for this month. So I'm going to ask each person to introduce themselves, tell us a bit about their background, including if they were born or raised in this country, and how long they've worked in pharmacy for, and then we'll get into some of the discussion. So we've got some questions as well to ask each of our panel members. So if I can start with Parampreet.
Hello everyone, my name is Parampreet Bhaiya. I'm a pharmacy technician. I'm one of the co-founders of the Pharmacy Technicians of Colour. I was born in sunny southeast London, so definitely born and raised here. I've been in pharmacy for a very long time, I think. It started off as work experience at my local community pharmacy, and then I would join hospital pharmacy back in 2002 and now work for Health Education England.
Thank you very much. And then on to Kanjin.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Kanjin Sharma. I am born in India, born and raised in India. Came to the UK in 2006, and I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner by profession. Then started my pharmacy career when I moved into the UK. Since 2007, I am working with pharmacy, first as an assistant, then dispenser, then accuracy checking technician, and now I'm working as a deputy chief technician for clinical trials at Royal Marsden, Surrey.
Thank you very much. That's a very interesting career tour so far already. Thank you. And Kalpna.
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Kalpna Daya. I'm one of the co-founders for Pharmacy Technicians of Colour. So I was born and raised in this country. I was born in lovely Coventry, and then moved over to Leicester and then to Richmond. And then back into lovely Milton Keynes. So you can see my little circular of where I've been raised throughout my life. But I've been working in pharmacy, and this is where you're going to start working out my age, for 20 years plus, but that's as much as I will say now for now. I initially started as a dispenser in community pharmacy, and then kind of progressed into a pharmacy technician role in community, did my apothecary hall, and then went on to secondary care, where I went through from sort of basic rotational pharmacy technician to senior leadership. And now I'm currently working for Health Education England as a programme facilitator.
Thank you. And I don't think you gave your age away by saying how long you'd worked in pharmacy, but then you said the qualification, and that one has been gone for some time. So I've got a set of questions just to help us to aid the discussion, but feel free to kind of chip in, and it's more of a discussion rather than a kind of a question and answer session. So I just wanted to ask everybody, so how did you learn about your culture? How did you learn about your heritage? And what is your heritage, I guess, for each person?
Shall I go first?
Yeah, sure.
So I obviously learnt my culture and about my actual heritage from my parents. And my mum and dad were both born in India, in a state called Gujarat. My dad had migrated to Mozambique. And when I was a little younger, I didn't really embrace my culture, and I didn't really understand it. And partly that was because my parents were both very busy. I was living in Richmond, which was a predominantly a white place where, the population was of white people. And it was, so therefore I kind of wasn't really interested, shall I say. I don't know if that's the right sort of way to sort of describe it. But it was only when I sort of got a bit older, started going to college, and meeting different people, that I started actually learning about my heritage and culture and asking about it from my parents. So that was my little history.
So from your parents, but later on. That's lovely. And who would like to go next, Kanjin or Parampreet? Oh, you're on mute, Kanjin. Sorry, Kanjin, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Hi. Sorry, I had fine. I'm born and brought up in India, so which strongly reflects as my heritage and culture everywhere I go, and I'm just proud about that. My knowledge, when you live and surrounded by people who actually want to pass down the tradition and they try so hard, actually it's just becomes very easy. So by celebrating the festivals, maybe by having some rituals, whether it's a storytelling from my grandmother or just helping mom to cook specific dishes in the kitchen for specific festivities, that just builds up the values, the tradition. You get to more, know to more about your heritage in general. Yeah, that's I think the society we live in, the educational system, and family and friends, they just help me to show what my heritage is, and I truly value that.
Fantastic, thank you. And Harpreet.
So a bit both, I think. I think for me, so I'm a Sikh, and my parents and family friends all kind of encourage everybody to learn about our religion, our culture. So mainly through friends and family, close friends and family, we've kind of learned a lot about our culture. I also attended Punjabi school every Saturday morning, which it's probably the worst thing to do on a Saturday morning after 5 days at school. But looking back at it, was something we needed. And I also went to the Gurdwara Sahib and learned Kirtan, which is our devotional singing, which is accompanied by musical instruments. Not a well-known fact, I can play the harmonium as well. So these classes all kind of did help me learn about my culture and heritage. Um, More recently, I think probably the last 7 odd years, I'm doing a lot of self-taught teaching by researching, reading books, attending webinars, etc. Because as much as family can teach us, there's some things that they may forget, or they might not think it's something we need to know or learn about. But I'm very keen to learn more about my history and where we've come from, and all of it encompassed into one. So I'm trying to attend webinars, read a lot more books, and trying to self-taught myself. So yeah, so that's how I'm learning about more of my heritage. I'm learning every day. I'm a bit very much like everybody else. The festivals help, learning how to cook foods help, still learning, still lots of learning to do, but I am getting there, I think.
I must admit, Parampreet, you've done very well, because I was, it feels like I was a really naughty girl, when I was younger, because I didn't do any of that. But I do regret it. And I do look back and I do wish I took some Gujarati classes. I can, speak it fluently and understand it fluently, but I just can't read or write. And that is just something, and nothing's stopping me from doing that now, which I am sort of debating about doing, but it's trying to find that time a little bit. And Google's been a wonder for me. I've done great with Google. But yeah, I a bit like you, Parampreet, and Kanjin, as Kanjin said, being in sort of, when you become a little bit older and mature, you start to sort of link in with family a little bit more, and you learn a lot from them. And cooking, I was a terrible cook, but now I really do enjoy cooking, and I must say it's not too bad. So if you ever fancy having some paneer tikka or something, you know where to pop round to.
That is now recorded, so that we're definitely going to hold you to. Well, thank you very much. I think this is really interesting about languages, and also about going to Punjabi school as well when you were younger. So that means, I guess, your parents kind of had that influence on you in terms of learning about your culture as well. Do you feel that your heritage has influenced or had an impact on your career choices? And that can be through your parents, or just from kind of learning about different kind of health conditions and wanting to learn more. Do you think that's had an influence on your career?
I can go first if you want. I don't think it has. I think there was always an expectation that I'll go into pharmacy or medicine, because I chose to do work experience in pharmacy. And I'll hold my hands up, pharmacy was not going to be my first choice at that point. for me, a career choice has always been personal. I don't think my cultural heritages have kind of influenced that, but kind of looking at some of the values we have and to help others, look after others, I think that kind of comes into working within pharmacy. So yeah, I don't think it's
Fantastic
really...
answer.
Oh, great, thanks.
Has anyone else got any different experience? You feel that it has had an influence on your...
I wouldn't say it has heavily influenced it as such, but there were elements definitely which guided me to choose, the career I chose basically. So degree I studied in India is the Ayurvedic medicine and surgery. So I'm a practitioner, which is alternative medicine system in India, and was always been inclined to medicine career, maybe because I'm strong, was science was my forte probably, but there was this strong urge that caring for others and then giving back to society, which definitely I can link it back to the heritage or cultural aspect of it, because any food you cook, you distribute it. If somebody is needy, come to your door, you never leave them without providing them food, shelter, some aspects. So it's naturally the empathy, what I would say, or care naturally is that was there definitely, in which I wanted to shift into a career. Now coming back to Ayurveda, it is so much integrated into Indian society. Like Ayurveda, first of all, for those that doesn't know what Ayurveda is, it's a very old, like it's a traditional herbal medicine system which is dating back since 5,000 years, and it's still practicing in India as a main, sometimes as a main treatment. Basically, people go to Ayurvedic practitioners. Um, when I was saying, it's just the way of living actually. Whether it's your morning routine, like you wake up and what sort of routine you would have to treating cough and cold and fever, aches and pains with some herbal remedies at home. It just so much integrated into your day to day life, which was very fascinating to me at that age. And maybe I could say that now that has definitely put some sort of impact on choosing a career in a medical profession, possibly.
Thank you. And Kalpana?
I suppose it's a combination of Porumpreet and Kanjin. I think, and I hate to sort of stigmatise this aspect, and please forgive me for saying this, but I did have a lot of uncles that were pharmacists, and had the pharmacist shop and the Patel's pharmacist shop, in community. So I think that kind of did influence me a little bit, and I used to really enjoy counting the tablets. And yes, I did look at doing the degree, but obviously academically I didn't have the grades. But I think it was because I just couldn't put my head down. I was quite a practical person, so obviously I fell into the route of being a pharmacy technician, which I don't have any regrets of. I think I've chosen the right career. It's it fits me, and I've picked it up. But equally, as much as Parampreet and Kanchan has said, it is that whole caring thing. And I know in our Indian culture, it is very much, you must study, you must either be a doctor or a pharmacist, you must be in some sort of medical profession. So I think that was kind of drilled into you anyway. You don't want to be working in a factory shop like your parents, working hard. And, so it was always like, try and get yourself, get a career pathway. So, for me, it is just to say to people, to be a pharmacy technician is a brilliant career pathway. You don't have to go to university. And if that's not what's right for you, come and join our profession.
No, I've second that, Kalpana, definitely. So when I had to decide what career I would choose when I moved into UK, once I had a proper career, then moved here in the UK, pharmacy just was the only option. I felt like, it just straight away connected to it. And now working my way progression, I'm absolutely happy where I am. So yes, definitely. I'm not totally influenced by the heritage, but as again, heritage is something your experiences how you analyze it, how you interpret it, and then surrounding people. So I probably know a lot of, as Kalpana said, pharmacist who owns the pharmacy, Patels and Shahs and stuff, and that might have influenced somehow to just join a career in pharmacy. So yeah.
Obviously third that it's an excellent profession to join, and again for the same reasons, but also for the other reasons that you've kind of brought in there. For each of you are talking about compassion and empathy and looking after people, and I think that naturally it feels like you've drawn to that, whether that's cultural, whether that's inherently who you are as people. I think obviously all of your influences in life as a person make you choose your career as well, don't they? So I hear what you're saying. It's not a direct influence, but actually it might be something that's kind of come through as part of your heritage, just as who you are as a person. I think, Kalpana, you talked about your education there a little bit, and thinking about influences and strong influences to perhaps have a vocational career, so something where you study and then you have something at the end of it. Thinking about your education experience, do you think that that has kind of shaped you and shaped your career in pharmacy?
I think from an education point of view, when I was younger, I didn't apply myself. Part of it was that, you know, I didn't have that support mechanism, as you know, my parents were working hard. You know, I didn't have that sort of networking or connection of friends that I could, you know, work with. But sort of doing a vocational sort of qualification has kind of shaped me in the fact it's made me more confident and, you know, be able to believe in myself because I can see what I'm good at. And I think the connection, especially in community pharmacy, you know, when I started off, that connection with patients from, you know, different cultural backgrounds, and that they were able to talk to me and connect with me, despite the fact that I didn't think I, you know, valued my cultural heritage very well. There was that natural connection, and that made me feel even more confident, you know, that I could do something right, and I was helping, and just seeing that smile at the end of it just helped. So I suppose in a way, yes. And I have, you know, since then gone on and done a master's in leadership. But I think if I'd have directly gone into a degree, I'm not sure if I would have kind of coped with that. So, yeah.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to kind of add any comments about their kind of experience of education and how you feel that that might have influenced your choices?
So mine was slightly different to Kalpana's. So for me, I think education did have a big impact for me to come into the profession. I was the first girl in my family to go to university, the first girl to live away from home. Call that rebelling, call that a win, I don't know. But I did kind of say, I'll go to Wolverhampton University because I've got family there, which kind of softened the blow to the parents that I'm not going to be living at home. I think it was at university that I learned a little bit more about my heritage and culture. And again, Wolverhampton is predominantly Punjabi Sikhs, so I learned a lot more. Not to say that I didn't always fit in, but I chose to do molecular biology because at that point I wanted to. Science was the thing I was good at. So I ended up working in pharmacy there. Shock, moving from Charlton Pharmacy to Wolverhampton Pharmacy. But it kind of made me realise that there is a career out there. And I, like, bit like Kalpana, when I kind of talked to the patients, you know, counselling them on their medication, they understood what was happening. And I could talk to them in Punjabi as well, so which means they could understand how they were taking their medicines. That kind of almost said to me, okay, I could work in this kind of profession. So finishing university, coming back home, not having a job to go to, went back to work for pharmacy and then did my level 2. So I think education did kind of shape me for my heritage, culture and my profession now, just in a longer route, I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I think with education comes the knowledge, the critical thinking, who you are, your understanding through history, maybe all of that does definitely come through education. I again, because I was born fortunate, I would say in this sense, because India is such a diverse country, and you see so many religions and the celebrations, absolutely. So having that knowledge, because you would have a holiday for maybe for Guru Nanak Jayanti, but you would have a holiday as well for Eid, and you would have a holiday, school holiday basically for Christmas as well, and Diwali and Holi. And it's just not holiday, you celebrate these festivities, you get to know about different cultures, you savor the food as well which goes along with it. So education system definitely has played a massive role when it comes to the inclusion, of other culture. And I'm more inclusive in that sense now because I understand the background of it. Definitely. Secondly, I think that has formed a very broad approach of my understanding that everything has to be in a holistic way, which goes now in my both careers, whether it's pharmacy or whether it's Ayurvedic field. It's the holistic approach towards the life in general. I would say because of the education, I have developed these values. Progression wise, I'm still learning, as both of Kalpana and Parampreet said. Definitely the education never ends. So recently, in pharmacy career, I have been doing my leadership courses, but at the same time I'm doing the herbalist course as well and nutritionist course as well. So it's kind of, you just want to get more knowledge about what you do and how you can excel into, so help others basically. So yeah, education does shape you differently.
Sounds like you're very busy. So that's keeping you out of trouble.
I think the interest is just all about interest. You will find time if you are interested to do so. So yeah, luckily the modules are not that heavy, and I'm still managing to fit into full-time work. And I'm on my last modules for both of the courses. So hopefully, fingers crossed.
Crossed. No, that's great. I think learning about the festivals sounds very interesting. That seems to be something that has come up multiple times as well when we've had chats outside of here, but also tonight as well. So I think just talking perhaps through some of the festivals that people celebrate might be a nice idea, which I'm putting you on the spot because we haven't said that we would talk about this. But I think, so you mentioned there Holi, if people want to kind of talk about what that is, and Eid as well. So we've got lots of different celebrations, because like people of South Asian heritage, South Asia is a large kind of area that we're talking about, but even just within India. So maybe talk about the things that you necessarily know, I suppose. What kind of festivals and celebrations are part of your heritage that you really enjoy?
I enjoy all festivals because that gets me a chance to doll up, get into my attire like sari or heavy dresses, cook. That's something I really want to pass on to my kids. That is another beauty actually for Indian heritage, that every festival has linked to a specific food item. So in Diwali, would make some savories and sweets. Holi would have something completely different. So yeah, I really want to, and I'm trying my best to pass down this tradition and values to my kids, since I've tried to celebrate in my, absolutely, given the time and all the busyness we have. But yes, all the festivals definitely we celebrate it. So I will give you the biggest one would be Diwali, of course. Then we have Navratri, the 9 days of dancing, which is again very vibrant colors and music and dance at the same time, fasting those 9 days, praying. So it's very, very spiritually uplifting, experience for all of us as a whole family. We do sit down, we do arti, which is the evening prayer for 9 days. Ganpati, I am a Maharashtrian, which is the western part of India. I'm born and then married to a Gujarati, so I know both the languages. And there is another reason why we celebrate lots of, because some festivals are different in Gujarati, so we try to celebrate it both ways basically. What else? Holi, yes. Not to the extent what I would enjoy in India, but here little bit, yeah, color here and there at least, and then enjoy with sweets and savories with family and friends. I think, yeah, our calendar is quite busy in that sense.
I think I can
Thank
resemble to what Kanchan has said there from her celebrations. But the key point that you've just picked up there is it's not the same as it is back in India. And I suppose it's no different to say when we celebrate Christmas. Christmas is always different, you know, depending on if you go to a hot country, you don't get that same vibe, do you? Whether, you know, it gets dark early, you get the lights, you feel the cold, you know, you actually want it to snow. So it's not the same sort of thing. So you know, and I've been in India for Diwali, and it's just an amazing atmosphere, you know, it doesn't matter what your background is, everybody joins in that festival, whether you're, you know, and equally I also think people are treated so respectfully in that food is given out to, you know, all the poor, as well as, you know, everything is shared, and that in itself is a really nice thing to see when you're just there and observing. But Holi is totally different. You know, you couldn't just go with a load of paints and that and spray people randomly on the street here, because we might get told off. We might have the police turn up. But there, you can just go up to a stranger and just spray them with paint, and you know, and it's just it's absolutely brilliant. But I think one of my other favourite is Navratri, which I only appreciated once I got a bit older and enjoyed the dancing. I have got 2 left feet, but I have learned how to do the steps after several practices. But also I do like Raksha Bandhan, which is coming up soon.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if everybody knows, and if you know, Sam, but it's about the brother and sister sort of love, you know. But the best bit for me is the fact that you get a present from your brother, you know, and it's their chance to actually say, actually, I do appreciate you as a sister. So, you know, that is quite nice as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we have festivals around the relations. That's another thing. Like we have Vad Savitri. You might not have heard that possibly, but it's to celebrate the bond between husband and wife. Then you have Raksha Bandhan, like brother and sister. Then in Diwali, 5 days are celebrated with different relations. So I would have one day where the father and daughter's bond is celebrated. So it's so beautiful if you, and I think that link with, you know, the festivities makes it even more special. Yes, of course, every time you get nice gifts, that's definitely the cherry on the top. But yes, they are so meaningful and they're so integrated into your life. And yeah, I do miss that usually, but again, I'm trying my best because my kids are here. They're not going to experience all of this what I have experienced, but I'm just trying to mimic that as much as I can, possibly.
I think that's really beautiful. I think obviously my heritage is British, and I think we have Mother's Day, Father's Day, those kind of things, but not necessarily those other relations where you celebrate. So I think that's really lovely, and it's something that, you know, we could kind of maybe think about in terms of just why that happens, and just the fact that we can celebrate that as part of your South Asian heritage. I think that's fantastic. Parampreet, did you have anything that you wanted to add in terms of celebrations?
No, but Kalpana's reminding me that Raksha Bandhan is coming up, and I think it's on the 11th of August.
It's my
So I will send a WhatsApp message to all my brothers and my cousin brothers. I think alongside the Diwali, so we celebrate Diwali as Bandi Jor Divas, which is our day of liberation. Vaisakhi is also a huge festival for Sikhs. It's the birth of the Khalsa. There's little festivals in between, not much festivals, but kind of respecting the days that our Gurujis are born. We have Gurba, so we've got scattered around the whole year. But I think the main 2 big festivals that I like celebrating are Diwali, Bandi Jor Divas, and Vaisakhi. They're probably the 2 days that I would normally ask off work, I think, just so then I can go and spend it with family. And it is very much about spending it with family, you know, being grateful for what you have, helping others, doing seva, which is a selfless act. So they very much aligned to what Kalpana and Kanchan said. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I think that actually is a nice point to talk about as well. So you mentioned there about those are the main times that you would take off work. So they're not bank holidays, they're not kind of things that perhaps every manager would know about. So I think as part of South Asian Heritage Month, that is something that we can perhaps raise awareness of and think about how we help other people to understand that there are particular times of the year when people might want to take that time off to spend with their families to celebrate these really lovely festivals. So I think that's something that we can take away as pharmacy technicians of colour and perhaps have a think about how we can raise that awareness, and also with other colleagues that are celebrating South Asian heritage within pharmacy as well. And we have a lot of people, so that would be great. So I'm going to move us on to a different topic, and we're talking about all the celebrations that we have and how proud you are to be of your heritage and the things that you love about being of your heritage and having your culture. I'm just thinking about when you were growing up, so Kalpna alluded to it earlier, that perhaps there are things that you might have kept hidden or you didn't appreciate as much about your culture that you now are really proud of, you embrace and you celebrate. So things that have perhaps come full circle, are there things like that that you think, oh my gosh, look at all those years that I've missed out on celebrating those things? And I'm going to go to Kalpna first because you kind of alluded to it, so I'm sorry to put you on the spot. But
there's loads of things I don't know where to start. I suppose, yeah, I mean, you talk about celebrations, generally celebrations as a whole. I think, you know, I didn't appreciate Diwali. One of the other things was fasting. I know Kanjin sort of mentioned the different fasting. So when I was younger, not that I was forced to do it, but, you know, mum would fast and it was, tried to, encourage me to join in. And I would say I was doing it, but I wasn't really, because I was still having a can of Coke and a packet of crisps somewhere, sort of thing, which probably wasn't the best thing. But as I got older, I fast now every Thursday. And for me, that is about appreciation of food. I do eat once in the day, in the evening, and I break my fast. But it's specifically because there is a sort of God that we sort of worship called Jalaram, who has a temple in India. And I actually did visit this temple, which is why I've kind of continued the tradition on. But, he used to feed the poor every Thursday. Well, he does it every day now, but he used to previously feed them on a Thursday. And the saying was that they never ran out of food. And it was very simple food. It was rice, a bit of potato curry, very simply made, no sort of massive sort of spices to it or anything, very sort of, a little bit of salt and a bit of seasoning, and that's it. But it just tasted lovely and it fed everybody. And yes, I've now been there, seen all these people, eating, sitting, and they don't even have plates. They have plates made out of plant leaves. And it's just amazing. And I actually joined in and did it, and it did taste beautiful. And, I felt full, and as a result, I've continued that, because I think it is about, and I do think we take food for advantage sometimes. And I think that's the thing from my sort of culture and heritage. You shouldn't waste food. You should always, feed it. But, equally, when people come around, you always offer food. You always share food, and I don't think I appreciated that when I was younger, but I do now, sort of thing. I think the other thing I didn't appreciate in my own culture was the sort of, as Kanjin has really sort of studied this and knows this very well, is the herbal remedies and that. So turmeric. My mum always used to give me turmeric when I used to have a cough or I was a bit ill. And I didn't like it, and I pretended I drank it and then spilled it down the sink, sort of thing, But now, when I do get a really bad cough, I'm putting turmeric into my little glass of water with a bit of honey, and I'm actually doing it, and it works wonders. It kind of stops my cough. So things like that, from your heritage and the beliefs that they had that you didn't believe in, and you thought, no, you need antibiotics or something, and now I've started going back and thinking, actually, it does work. Natural remedies do work and they do help. So yeah, what I can share with you guys.
Yeah, I could link into that actually. When I was growing up, as I said, Ayurveda, it's way of life. You don't differentiate it, like, getting up in the morning, having hot water, first thing to drink. You don't think it differently. Doing yoga, doing prayers before you set off for work, gratitude, feeling of that, giving respect to elderly. I can name so many of these. Like if you're, Kalpana rightly said, like having some herbal remedies when you are, minor ailments, I would say, treating minor ailments at home. So I never thought about it differently. And when I came to this country, suddenly it has become, oh, do you know yoga? Do you know how to do meditation? And actually, I made a career out of it here. So I am a consultant now. So it just shows, like, sometimes you take things as granted as well from your heritage, from your culture. The When I came into this country, the perception of this was so different, and that just made me now to I do a lot of talks then, just to make aware of, about Ayurvedic medicine and herbs, and about yoga and meditation. But frankly speaking, I never had to hide anything. But that awareness, like, oh wow, this is something I'm doing special, only made its presence in my mind when I came to this country. These old routine, these old rituals are very special. And yeah.
Cool. I can definitely carry on with the turmeric story. I remember day before my wedding, I was snotty, I was coughy, I went straight for the Benylin and I was told no, and literally forced to drink this pint of milk with turmeric into it.
Totally.
It wasn't very nice from what I can remember. I haven't had it again, but it worked. I mean, next day I was fine. Looking at the wedding photos, you couldn't tell that I had a cold. Yeah, so there has to be something there.
I thought you was going to also say about turmeric being put on your face and your hands and that.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that was fun. My nails weren't as forgiving because I went for a nice clear sheen. They were very yellow. So, but yes, there's the whole ceremony of cleaning with turmeric and flour, which is always fun. It's nice now doing it to other people rather than it was happening to me. It's much more fun now. So, yeah, so it's got a lot of benefits as well. So there's a lot of cultural beliefs behind that as well. I'm trying to think of something that I'm now embracing. I think there's a few things, and I think we were talking about this before we jumped on the call. So sorry, Kalpana, I'm definitely going to pinch it because it's one I've kind of re-embraced. Was having my hair oiled when I was a child. Mum used to sit me down every Friday night, and what I thought was litres and litres of hair oil, and hating it, thinking, oh no, I look awful, like complete greasy hair, not realising that actually the benefits that had. And now I've gone like full circle. It's my routine every Friday night is getting the hair oil out and massaging my head with the hair oil, tying it up, and then washing it. The fact is that there's a whole ritual behind that. It's like my mum came down a few weeks ago and she massaged her into my oil, and it was such a nice moment because it's that bond between mother and daughter as well, and between sisters and aunts. I think when we're growing up, we don't realise that. And it's like having those conversations. I mean, conversations I was having with mum is not a conversation you would normally have over a cup of tea, but it was like spur of the moment. She had a little bowl with my hair oil on it, going away, massaging my head. Apart from the fact that I was really chilled afterwards, it was such a really nice moment that, I'm be embracing that. Definitely. That's definitely one of my rituals on a Friday night. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing all of those things. I think I'm in South London. Sorry, siren going past. One sec. The hazards of being live. What I was going to say is it sounds like there are things that you've had growing up that you kind of seen as specific tasks or specific foods or specific treatments, those kind of things that you've associated with the task, but actually there's so much more that goes with it that's more holistic, that goes towards your well-being as a person as well. So be that a spiritual aspect, be that a bonding with your family moment, and all of that is something that perhaps has sown a seed that you maybe didn't appreciate when you were younger, but now that's coming to fruition, if you like, so that kind of seed is growing or has grown, and you're kind of ready to pass that on to the next generation, perhaps. So I think it's really beautiful to hear all of that, because I think there's lots of things that we perhaps don't appreciate when we're younger. And I've learned tonight one other thing, that Kalpna was quite naughty. So she's mentioned a couple of things, but particularly tipping away something that was meant to be good for her. That's very naughty. But I think it's really nice to hear all the kind of the different things that are kind of celebrations of your culture that is not something that I would necessarily have known about. So I think that's really lovely. And we've got actually a couple of questions in the chat box. So there's one particular one that I'm going to go to, which is about what training resources are there for supporting different cultures and languages that you would recommend? For example, where could pharmacy staff get advice for translation of medical information, for advice about Ramadan or other festivals? So I'm happy to chip in, but does anybody want to answer that question?
So if I start with, obviously the Pharmacy Technician of Colour does do some sessions, and we do signpost you to relevant advice. So I have got to kind of get that in. Sorry, Sam, I had to mention that. So do look us up on Facebook, Twitter, and we do try and signpost people to that. But equally, there are some guidance out there. I can't think of the name, but there is the British Islamic health
Medical
group
Association.
That's it. Association that provides, really good advice for us. But also many organisations are now working, and I know recently there was some work around from an oncology point of view, where leaflets for sort of chemotherapy treatment, and that has been issued out in various languages. And I know there is a lot of work going on, as part of the inclusive pharmacy practice work, and that it is looking at the patient groups and, how do we get that communication right? So it is, looking at RPS, CPPE also do quite a lot of training materials around cultural competence and that. But I think generally, if you want to learn about the culture and languages, it is about networking, joining some of the sessions that are happening, with Pharmacy Technician of Colour, RPS, there's various sources, APT UK that do them as well. So do sort of link in with that. But as Pam has alluded, and, I've alluded to the fact that I need to go to some classes. There are some classes in places. So, if you Google them, just like going to learn about Spanish, there are different classes out there. So I know I'd like to do something like that. So please do feel chip in you rest of you.
I was going to say, in terms of translating labels, have a look at written medicine. They're doing translating of medicines into languages. So that's a good resource as well.
Absolutely. So those were probably the places that I would signpost to. So definitely during Ramadan, there are various organisations, but particularly the British Islamic Medical Association produce fact-checked information on for people with diabetes, and also about kind of Sharia law, so what is permitted and what is not permitted. And so for those of us who are not Muslim, it's a good resource to go to. If you work in an NHS trust, particularly in a multicultural area, then often your patient advice liaison team, or there may be other kind of patient experience leads within your trust that will be able to provide patient information in different languages. Sometimes it needs to be requested because it's not cost effective for them to produce them in multiple languages just all the time, because that information needs to be updated. But if people need the information in a written format, that is available usually in any kind of organisation that's quite large. They'll be able to provide that. And also those sorts of organisations usually employ translators as well. So that's particularly important for us in pharmacy. If we're trying to perhaps see somebody who's come in on the ward and doesn't speak English as their language, finding somebody to be able to make them feel comfortable, first of all. So it's about that patient experience, because you're very vulnerable when you come into hospital, and particularly if you don't speak English as your first language. So you may speak English, but medical terms are very different. So you need that extra kind of support just to be able to be on a level playing field, really, so that you are able to understand what's happening with your treatment and what's happening in hospitals. So in the larger kind of organisations, those things are available. And I would definitely support having a look at the CPPE website for those who are based in England. For those who are based in Wales, you have the equivalents, HEIW, and also in Scotland, NES, so National Education Scotland. But CPP England, so the English version, have done a lot of work on kind of cultural intelligence and improving your knowledge of, and just awareness, really. So celebrating the fact that we're all different, but diversity doesn't necessarily mean inclusion. So how do we make people feel more included when we are all from different backgrounds? I'll stop talking because this is not about me. So thinking about then, just bringing us back to South Asian Heritage Month. And it's all about celebrating and embracing your heritage and thinking about what you're really proud of and what you want to kind of take forward. So after this session, what do you each think that you will start doing or continue to do as a result of celebrating your South Asian heritage? And that sounds like scalp massages and a little bit more turmeric might be in the equation there, but who would like to go first?
I think mine's easy. I need to book myself onto some Gujarati classes because I really, I do really want to learn it. So I think for me, it has really sort of reminded me today that it is something that I want to do, and I now need to go and do it. So yeah.
Thank you. Kanjin?
I'm just trying to see what else I could do potentially. Because having kids around asking lots of questions, as I was a kid, I was asking why this needs to be done this way on this festival and not on this festival, why we worship particular god on this occasion and not the other. So I'm trying to go more scientific and, reading the books, authentic sources, so that I can give proper answer to the younger generation. So bite size, I've started making bite size stories for my youngest one, who is turning 6 next month. So that's something I have taken that as a project, because as a young mind, they ask lots of questions. And if you don't satisfy them at this age, that's not good. So I really want to get this tradition passed on to, but with absolute logical answers to the question they would ask me. So that is definitely for me.
Thank you. And Parampreet?
I've got a couple, so I'm just going to read them off. But I think what Kanjan's just said is absolute key. I mean, I've started getting books for my nephews and nieces so they understand their culture and their heritage a little bit more. And basic books, which my brother can take to the schools to explain why my nephew has got a top knot or why he's wearing a buttiga and, what it all symbolises. I think it kind of everything that both Kalpana and Kanchan has said is about commemorating, celebrating and educating, which is the aims of South Asian Heritage Month. And for me, I will continue to do this. I will say, Kalpana, will hold you to account. I think having learned how to rewrite my name in Punjabi and relearning how to write it, I can definitely hold you to account to this. But also, I think for me, I have gone into this journey I always bring it back to food, about cooking different types of food. And I still haven't nailed how to make jalebi. And when I do, I would say that I've completed my mission.
That's ambitious.
It is ambitious, isn't it? And honestly, I've messed up so many times and nobody sees it because it's not the stuff that I would put up on social media. My family sees it in the WhatsApp groups, but I am determined to kind of get that right. I mean, my grandmother can make it without thinking about it. She has no fear. She just kind of goes. So that is going to be my goal this time next year, I think.
Excellent. So if you need a taster, I am available.
Absolutely. Everyone's welcome.
Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to the end of our kind of main session tonight. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of add as like something that other people can take away? Any recommendations or anything that you think actually from this discussion is something that you want to kind of learn more about? Oh, we've kind of just touched on that. or a plea for people to find out more about. So this is your plug for people to learn more about your specific heritage.
Yep, sure. Exactly that, Samantha. I think if you want to learn, ask. Don't be afraid to ask. There's PTOC are run sessions throughout the year. We've done a couple of different sessions on different cultures and heritage for South Asian. So by all means, do volunteer if you want to talk about your culture and heritage as well. I definitely want to learn more about the 5 days after Diwali, Kanjin, because that's something I've not known about the different relationships. So that would be something I'd want to learn. Yeah.
Fantastic. And you don't have to say something, but if you'd like to, then please do.
Well, I was just going to echo what Parampreet said. I think it is really important that, you know, people aren't scared of asking. And I think equally, when you're working with individuals, it's important to share that and celebrate those events. You know, you don't have to do it religiously, but, you know, the more we learn about each other, the more it's going to translate into the care that we provide to our patients, and we understand some of the difficulties or the issues that they face. So for me, it is about learning not just about my own culture a bit more, but about other cultures and other heritage. You know, it's all important to me, and I'm learning different things each day. And the more I sort of meet and network with people, the more I sort of ask questions about, you know, their celebrations and what they do. But as part of South Asian Heritage Month, you know, the different events that have been going on through the month has been absolutely amazing, and I've learned so much over that. So but equally, Kanjin, those little books that you're creating for your 6-year-old would be really good to share, you know, because I think that would really help many of us as well to learn.
It's to break down that, you know, lengthy text, heavy knowledge into simpler form and giving them day-to-day life examples which they can relate to, and then that would strongly stick with them, I guess, you know, longer time. So I'm trying, but will really love to share, even if it's 1 or 2 stories and chapters. I would definitely like to share with you.
Oh, thank you so much. And I said at the beginning, I got a fantastic panel, and I honestly applaud all of you. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute privilege to hear all of your kind of about all of your heritage, some of the stories, for you to share some of the naughtiness, Kalpana, and just, you know, it's really lovely that we can do this and we can celebrate South Asian Heritage Month, and we've still got so much more time to go. So what I would say is, for those who are listening who are of South Asian heritage, if you would like to share your profile about who you are and what your heritage is, please do send those in. So Aman is still collecting those, and you can see the details on social media as part of the link to this post. And also look out for details of our celebration that we will be having in September for South Asian Heritage Month. So we hope to see as many of you as possible there. Thank you very, very much for joining us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you at the next events.
Thanks, everyone.